Salutations to all our future judges. In this video, we are going to see Indian Evidence Act 1872. But before going into the video, I'd like to make few requests to our viewers as well as the subscribers. Kindly do not skip the video. Watch the video from the beginning till the end. If you skip in between, you may be missing very crucial information or very crucial aspects which have been explained. Hence, watch from the beginning till the end. And next request is, please do have a notebook and a pen with you, because various questions which have been asked in Evidence Act in various exams would be mentioned or would be stated. And in addition to this, idea would be given as to how questions could be framed in a particular section. It is very important for you. So you all need to make a note of all these aspects. And in addition to this, some additional illustrations would also be given while teaching the act. Hence, you please make a note of all those additional illustrations as well. They would be of absolute help to you in understanding the particular section. And in addition to this, various ways or techniques would be taught which would help you to remember those sections, or to say some memory techniques would be given. This would be really helpful to you in remembering the sections when you go to the exam. I hope this video would be of absolute and great utility to you. Now, let us move to section 22. When oral admissions as to contents of documents are relevant, there are two situations under which they become relevant. Generally, oral admissions as to the contents of a document are not relevant, but under two circumstances, it becomes relevant. The first one is the party who is trying to give the oral evidence or proposing to prove that through this oral admissions should prove that he is entitled to give secondary evidence as to the contents of such document. One point is he should be entitled to give a secondary evidence. That is very important. Now the second thing is, if there is a question as to the genuineness of a document, then in that case the oral admission can be given. So in these two situations, oral admission as to contents of documents become relevant. Generally they are not relevant, but in these two circumstances they become relevant. So you can understand one aspect: if both the parties accept that a document is genuine, there is no problem at all. But if any one of the parties is saying that the document is not genuine, then it needs to be proved by some other means. So in that case, this oral admission can come to the rescue. Now let us move to 22A. This section 22A was inserted, or it came into effect from 17/10/2000. So this is pertaining to the electronic records. They say when oral admissions as to contents of electronic records are relevant. If it is a normal document, the procedure is something different, but if it is an electronic record, the procedure is something different. So the electronic records or the contents can be substantiated by way of oral admission, and they become relevant when the genuineness of the electronic record produced is in question. If somebody is questioning the genuinity of the electronic record which is produced in the court, then oral admissions can be taken to prove that the document is genuine. So in that case, it becomes, or the oral admission becomes relevant. Now let us move to section 23. Now the question is, when an admission in civil case becomes relevant, that is dealt with in section 23. If there is a civil case and some admission is given, generally it is not relevant, provided the condition is that if there is an express condition that evidence of it is not to be given, or if the court is coming to an inference or conclusion that the evidence, both the parties have agreed that evidence of it should not be given. So there are two circumstances under which the admissions in civil cases does not become relevant, or to say it is irrelevant. two circumstances. One is there is a special condition. The person is giving some admission, is saying that this admission should not be used as an evidence. So in that case, the admission cannot be relevant. Second is the court, while dealing with the case, comes to know that both the parties, the party who is giving the admission and the party who has received that admission, have agreed that it should not be used as an evidence. One is express, one is implied. So where the court is inferring. However, there is an explanation which is given in which it states that this section is not an exemption, or it does not restrict a barrister, pleader, attorney or vakil from giving evidence of any matter which he may be compelled to give under section 126. So this section 126 is not covered under this 23. It does not exempt this. Now let us move to section 24. There are two aspects in this particular section. They say confession caused by inducement, threat or promise when irrelevant in criminal proceedings. So there are two parts, we can say, to simplify this. The first part is where the court is coming to a conclusion or an inference, or it appears to the court. They need not even come to a conclusion, but it appears like there is something which is fishy, or which the court feels that there is an inducement, threat or promise to an accused, based on which he is given a confession. In that case, that confession cannot be treated as relevant. It is obviously irrelevant. And the next part is, in the opinion of the court, it feels that accused will gain some advantage out of this confession, or he can avoid any evil of temporal nature. So in all these situations, the court can come to a conclusion and say like this confession cannot be accepted since it is obtained by inducement, threat or promise. Or it comes to an additional aspect that the accused has gained an undue advantage or any advantage, or he has avoided any evil of a temporal nature. Let us try to understand this with an example. A person A is accused of killing B. He is accused, he is in the jail. So now someone comes to him and says like, see, I know that you have killed B, but you have not done that individually. Some persons known to me have also taken part in that murder, which you are not aware. So what I'll do is, you just go and accept that you have done the murder. You give a confession that you have done the murder. I'll pay you some money. I'll support your family. So if somebody is saying like this, based on which the person is going and saying and confessing that it was he who did the murder, then in that case, that confession is not relevant. Now let us move to section 25. Confession to police officer not to be proved. So any confession made to a police officer cannot be proved against the person who is making this confession. Now let us move to section 26. Where confession is made by an accused while in the custody of the police not to be proved against him. But it can be proved against him if there is a magistrate sitting next to the police under whose custody the accused is present or the person is present. However, this magistrate will not include head of a village discharging magisterial functions in the presidency of Fort St. George or elsewhere. But if this particular village headman is exercising the magisterial powers based on the Code of Criminal Procedure, or he himself is a magistrate under the Code of Criminal Procedure Code, then in that case, this person can be treated as a magistrate and the confession given in his presence is valid and it can be proved against him. Now let us move to section 27. How much of information received from accused may be proved? People who are practicing in the criminal side would be aware of this fact. A person who is practicing in the criminal side will absolutely know the fact that recovery made based on the confession is valid. Let us take an example. There is an accusation against a person or against A. saying that he has murdered one Mr. B with a knife. So now he is giving a confession to the police, saying that yes sir, I killed him and then I threw the knife in the lake where you found the dead body. Based on which the police officer goes to the lake and he finds the knife there. So to this extent, where they discover the knife, to this extent his admission is valid. It can be proved against him or it can be considered by the court. To that extent or to that part of information which is received, it is quite relevant. However, this may be a confession or may not be a confession. However, this particular part of finding the knife may be proved. Let us see section 28. This section 28 is connected to section 24. Section 24 gives an exception that if a person is threatened or he is induced or some promise is being made based on which he is giving a confession, it is not valid. However, if all these inducement, threat or promise has been completely removed, after which he is giving the confession, then that confession is fully relevant. Section 29. Confession otherwise relevant not to become irrelevant because of promise of secrecy, etc. Imagine a scenario where a confession has found out to be relevant. So the court is coming to a conclusion that confession is otherwise relevant only. In that case, if somebody is coming and saying, the person who gave the confession would come and say that it was made under a promise of secrecy. So he says, no, somebody told me that they will keep it as a secret, but they have revealed it. Or the person may say, no, I was deceived. And this confession was given when I was drunk. Or he can even say, it was an answer to a question which I need not answer. Whatever may be the form of the question. Or the accused might come and say that he was under the impression that he should make this confession. That is, he can say that he was not warned, that he was not bound to make such confession. And he was also not warned that evidence of it might be given against him. So in all these situations, the confession will not become irrelevant. Still, it will be relevant. If you like the video, please do press the thumbs up button, do subscribe the channel and share the channel with your friends. Let me know what you feel about this video by way of comments. Let us join hands together and contribute for a learned society. Thank you.